What was the big rumor in your high school did turn out to be true? That an English teacher was using heroin. It's pretty sad actually. He was just a regular guy who destroyed his knee. So after surgery he got painkillers, got hooked on them, and then eventually started using heroin. Nobody really believed it until he abruptly went on leave. He was gone for most of the school year, and when he eventually got sober and came back, he told his story to the students to try to show them how dangerous that stuff is, and confirmed everything to be true. There was an 18-year-old freshman who was pregnant, and there was a joke spread that this was her fourth kid. They said she was first pregnant at 12 years old and that was why she never finished 9th grade. I actually made friends with her because we both walked the mile in pairs, and I felt bad that people were spreading this rumor and making fun of someone who obviously is trying to better themselves for their baby. Well, turns out, it was actually her 5th kid. She had one set of twins at the age of 13. Then at 14 she was trying to be a mother of 2 and finish 9th grade, but she got pregnant again and dropped out. I realize now that the entire situation was very concerning. I hope she got some guidance. On a ski trip, the phys ed teacher allegedly porked the science teacher. Someone saw him go into her room in the middle of the night. They denied it, but years later they got married. That a teacher was sleeping with students. Turned out to be the US history teacher. He was caught and later fired. That the English teacher had been sleeping with students. I found out when I was a freshman in 2008. Fast forward 8 years later, the chemistry teacher got caught and decided to bring the English teacher down with him to get some heat off his back. A total of 3 teachers went to jail. That one of the gym teachers, very large lady, broke the diving board every year. I didn't have her class, but from what I understood it was true, except it only happened once. The big rumor wasn't about my high school, but a school on the east side of town. The rumor was, a bunch of girls were running a prostitution ring out of the school. It turns out it was true. PD went undercover and busted about a dozen girls. Dr. Palermo, the band teacher, never received his doctorate in music like he claimed. It was weird. He used to force all his students to address him as doctor, but when he came back from his leave of absence we all called him by Mr. like nothing happened. There were rumors for years about some of the younger male teachers and female students. Some of the teachers ended up leaving never to be spoken of again. Others stuck around, but nothing was ever substantiated. Then while my class was on our senior trip, the music teacher got arrested. Then 2 more teachers the following year. Then several years went by and the school abruptly announced it was shutting down for financial reasons 2 weeks before the end of the school year. A week after it closed for good, another teacher got arrested. So yeah, I say the rumors turned out to be true. That our science teacher was kind of a creep. I always thought he was nice. Years later he was fired and arrested for aggravated child porn. Not nearly as exciting as some of the replies, but at my old high school I was always told that if you go to school after dark, in certain conditions you'd see a bunch of swastikas painted on the brick walls of the building. I thought it was fake BC. If they're really painted on there, why can't you see them at all times? One night I stayed late for an art club meeting. We were studying photo exposure and playing with some light tubes to make cool pictures. So we were having the meeting outside in the dark. As we were messing around I approached the building from a certain angle and saw them. IDK if it was spray paint that got scrubbed off and left some kind of residue/chemical on the bricks, or if someone sprayed them with clear coat or something, but there were very obviously swastikas on the wall. The softball coach in his 40s was dating one of his players. It turned out to be a sophomore. So she was 15 over 16 at the time. He left his wife and kids for her, but he soon realized he was a creep and ended things. His punishment was a 1-year suspension from coaching, but kept his teaching job somehow. It was a few years after I graduated, but a student baked cookies for their entire history class and handed them out one day. Several days later, student informed everyone that she had actually baked her recent grandfather's ashes into the cookies, and so everyone had eaten some of her dead grandpa. A lot of folks just thought it was a bizarre stunt until some of the cookies that hadn't been eaten were sent to the local PD for testing, and sure enough, contained human remains. I was in college and was seeing headlines about the school because it was briefly international news, I think, and had to text some of my friends that still had younger siblings at the school so I could find out what happened. That one of the English teachers used to physically assault kids. No one believed it because he was elderly and very kind. One day he told our class that back in the 80s, when he was teaching, any time a kid got mouthy or started a fight in his classroom, he would pick them up physically and throw them out of his class. He gave a kid a concussion once because he bounced his head off a locker. They sent him to anger management classes, but he stayed teaching at the school until his retirement. That the school was sending teen girls who got pregnant to the alternative school because they were afraid of an outbreak of teen pregnancies. Cliché as asterisk 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 for the 90s, but it was true. One of my friends got pregnant at 14, and they sent her off to the alt school. They told her it was the only way they could accommodate her special needs and expected absences, otherwise she'd eventually flunk out. That the 60-year-old art teacher was giving private nude drawing art lessons to a few select students. Basically she was posing nude for drawing classes and making sweet love to her favorite introverted art students every year. This went on for a decade that I know of. When she was 63, she married a 21-year-old former student. Biology teacher was having an affair with the principal. That there was an orgy several weekends involving a dozen students and at least a dozen adults. Age of consent way back then was 16. A bunch of the cool kids spent a lot of the summer at the lake cabin somebody's parents owned. The lake house next door was owned by a couple who would host swinging weekends there. At some point the two groups started hanging out together because high school kids love free alcohol, and eventually the students started staying for the orgies. That rumor blew up my entire senior year, and the longer it went the more it got to be obvious something had happened. And it was obvious what had happened. This was back in the late 1980s with the AIDS scare and anti-gay paranoia. The whole story came out in a drunken argument by two of the girls involved. The reason it had been kept secret for so long was that everyone involved had hooked up with the same sex at some point. That I was hacking into the computer systems. Because of this, my only failing grade my senior year was ironically the computer courses. To be clear, I was failed. I did not fail. I got perfect scores on everything in that class. I was a student tech at my school, so I had admin access to everything. This is why she thought I was hacking. The teacher simply marked my grades as zeros for that class. I got a 0 in that class. So the day after school technically ended, I logged into the system under admin login and changed my grades back to what they were. I had all of the papers still showing I got perfect scores in case there was a fight. There never was. Gym teacher banging a student. She was. The biggest rumor in my high school was that one of the science teachers / baseball coach was banging the health teacher / volleyball coach. He was at every volleyball game. She came to most of the baseball games. People would say they saw his truck at her apartment complex. Somebody said they saw them together at a concert 200 miles from home. Both of them constantly got asked if they were messing around on their boyfriend / girlfriend with each other, and both denied it for the entire year. Yeah, turned out they'd been dating for 3 years like adults can do, and just kept it a secret from students, because high school students suck. They got married the summer after I graduated. For years there was a rumor of a secret room in the gyms that had a pool table in it. It was one of the first things you learned about the school, and despite many lies told by pupils seeking short-lived glory, it was strenuously denied by staff at the school. About 5 years after I left the school it was demolished. The school was, during my time, the second lowest Ofsted ranked school in the country and had a Channel 4 documentary filmed about its staff who dealt with the hardest kids to teach. Its demise was not a shock. They stopped intake of new pupils and ran down the clock on those still there, but due to some delays the handover from school site to the new building developers, a small retirement village and health center, the janitorial staff were kept on to keep the place safe and secure over a 2 or 3 month period. On their last couple of days they did a full site-wide inspection and someone decided to take photos along the way. They went into all the buildings, large or minor, and into staff areas seldom seen by students but not controversial. The photos documented the areas of the school that has begun to be disused and abandoned in its final few years, already damaged or graffiti strewn. Old furniture piled in that classroom we did year 8 in. The untuned piano in the hall already sold off or given away, who knows. A couple of years later one of the people who went on this mystery tour uploaded the full set to a now deleted Facebook profile. For those of who attended the school in its final years it was interesting to see what had become of the place we spent 5 years becoming young adults in, seeing perspectives from angles new to us such as up on the roofs of the single-story outbuildings. And the last couple of photos a tour into the dark, dank boiler room that served both of the equally ancient gyms. And almost at the very end, a photo of those janitorial staff playing a game of pool. My sister's form teacher got a student pregnant. I mean he did end up leaving, but there's still multiple rumors of him being in prison. At my high school 2 kids who were cousins were dating. They always denied it, but a lot of people still believed it. They did look weirdly similar, but a lot of people just chalked it up to coincidence. About a year later they broke up and totally stopped interacting. Rumors started that their parents got involved, or found out, and shut it down, and it was again left to speculation. Our 5-year reunion somebody who knew their family said that it turned out the rumor about them being cousins wasn't true. They were half siblings, and didn't even know until their parents put it together one day. So kind of true. The new guy with a receding hairline that came to school in March and asked where he could buy weed on his first day of school, well you know, he was an undercover cop and didn't last the week. That one of the students in our junior year, who reportedly had a serious drug habit, was snorting cocaine. Gym teacher found him in the boys' locker room bathroom snorting a line off the toilet seat. Kid spent his summer break in rehab, came back to graduate a clean senior, then started up the cocaine again. Haven't heard much about him since. That our American government teacher high schoolers went to prison last year at 65. Band teacher had a reputation for being kind of sticky with the hot girls in band. 3 weeks ago I was listening to the radio news like an 80-year-old and found out he got charged for sexual interference with a minor. Me being gay. Turns out I was B-point myself. That a new student was actually a police officer. He was and the idiots were busted for selling drugs. There were always rumors of sexually inappropriate behavior by the priest, who was the principal at my Catholic high school. Lo and behold, I later found his name listed in the Los Angeles Diocese Directory of Predator Priests. He had abused several women who came to him for relationship counseling. So there was a rumor going around that a teacher was a real creep. And had been saying things to some female students that made them really uncomfortable. I had a class with this teacher and he always gave me uncomfortable vibes. A few girls had even claimed they had seen him looking at their chests, but no one could really prove anything. One day in the middle of class we get a knock at the door and 3 sheriff's deputies enter the room and tell everyone to remain calm and then inform our teacher they have a warrant for his arrest. They place him in handcuffs and take him out of the room. Apparently he had been making very sexual advances towards one of the girls in his class. And her father was a deputy for our sheriff's department. He had told him what happened and he had a warrant placed for his immediate arrest. Never saw the teacher again, but everyone saw his mugshot. The really asterisk up part is whatever he said to her messed her up so much that she dropped out of school and was homeschooled until graduation. Poor girl. Athletics coordinator was fudging documents on kids' addresses so they would be able to go to our school instead of others in the district. We won like 5 state championships that year. There was a rumor that an incoming freshman had gotten so drunk over the summer that he passed out on a golf course and golfers found him the next morning and thought he was dead. They called to report a dead body. I know the rumor is true because the kid was me. That a girl put peanut butter on her vagina and got her dog to clean it up. I overheard her talking to a guy in my class one day when everyone was gone. He randomly started to tease and say peanut butter. Then she responded, "Oh my god, why is everyone talking about something I did in year 7? When I was in junior high, there was a rumor that there was a swimming pool on the roof. Texas public school before the reform. Schools were financed and run by the tax revenue of the neighborhood. You can imagine how that worked out. Rumor was they were dumping teachers that were going to be fired from the higher income schools into our lower income school. Turned out not only were they but some of the teachers were being fired for things like giving drugs to students, sleeping with students, and being drunk during class. The guy who taught chemistry was a notorious pedo, and they were just like, hey, give him to the poor kids, they don't matter." Lutheran high school, chapel every morning, religion classes, etc. One of the senior girls, a mister's daughter, rumored to be a prostitute. I always thought it was just a rumor. Found out years later it was true, while she attended a Lutheran high school. There was a rumor that the theater kids would use the bathrooms in the theater to have sex. Turned out it was true when a teacher walked in on a couple going at it on the sink. They ended up locking up those bathrooms during the day and only opened them for performances. It sucked because those were a lot nicer and quieter than the other ones. That the black van in the parking lot was a big time drug dealer, and that's where the senior student who was dealing pot and coke got his supply. This was in white as northeast US upper middle class suburbia. Turns out it was actually the local police collecting enough evidence on him to jump him in the parking lot after school, in front of everyone, with about 5 police cars too many for one 18-year-old kid, and arrest him. They waited until 2 days after he turned 18 to do this. Likely so there'd be no doubt about trying him as an adult. That the kind and popular teacher secretly making students get bullied. He's very popular. Young, good looking, and very kind. Guys look up to him, and girls have crushes on him. BC of this students will practically despise students that get special treatment. Turns out, that is his way to get rid of bad students. He intentionally showed his interest in that particular student. Such as saying in front of everyone that, if they need help he'll be there, asking the students to have lunch with him, and so on. Being teenagers, jealousy, ESP girls, gets bad and the special students will always end up being bullied or cast away. One of the bullied students realized it, see the pattern, gather some proof, and exposed him to the school and post it online. It was pretty big. Update, so I asked around. Turns out, they got a video/record of him, don't ask me how IDK, saying bad things about students, and saying that he intentionally made the targeted students bullied, so they can drop out or at least move to another class. No one knows the reason though. He only wants the best students in his class. Aside from the usual teacher having sex with student rumors, there are a couple that both turned out to be true-ish. 1. The abortionist. 2. The drug dealer teacher. I went to high school in the 80s. The abortion list at the school was a thing, but not quite in the way that we thought it was. Rumor was that the school kept a list of all of the girls who had abortions. That wasn't true. The school had a list of discreet abortion providers that was given to girls who wanted/needed it, confirmed to me by the principal several years later. The second was the drug dealing teacher. We had a Spanish teacher who was alleged to be a big-time drug dealer. Lived in a huge house that there was no way he could afford on a teacher's salary. Drove fancy cars, 2-3x a teacher's annual salary. Took lavish international vacations, frequently to South America, etc. I was a freshman. I heard these rumors, and they kept up all the way until midway through my senior year, when he was arrested ******* AT school by the FBI. Turns out when he was younger, he had run several flights of pot into the country, and made a bunch of money, and then got out, so, that part was true, and became a teacher. Turns out he was involved in all kinds of mail and wire fraud to sustain his lifestyle. Last I heard, he had gotten out of prison after 15 or so years, and then, the rumor is he had murdered someone, and was back in prison for life. That the 10th grade English teacher had a thing for students. I remember when I was in his class he would make me stay behind, after everyone had left just to talk. Freaked me out a bit but otherwise harmless. Years later my sister who was now in his class, told me he was recently suspended for blackmailing a student of his into going to dinner with him if she wanted a better grade. Her parents found out and reported it to the principal. Turns out all these rumors about him being an absolute creep were all true. Last I heard he was fired, but he was old enough at that point he was close enough to retirement. There was a rumor that our English teacher had gotten arrested for curb crawling. Nobody believed it until we had a textiles lesson where the teacher asked any questions over how to do a particular type of stitch and the class clown asked, "Is it true Mr. English teacher got arrested for curb crawling?" The textiles teacher answered, "I don't think everyone needs to know that, Simeon." That the gym teacher was a male stripper named Texas Tight Cheeks before he became a teacher. It sounds too specific to be made up, which is why I think it spread so easily throughout the school. When I was a freshman some seniors were counterfeiting money. This was around 2004-2005. They made some pretty convincing bills and spent them around town, including the school cafeteria. That year I learned that the Secret Service has a counterfeit investigations department. That some kid had built a room in the ceiling above the closet to hang out and hide his stash of contraband snacks/sodas that he'd sell in the hallways. He literally cut a hole in the ceiling of a closet within a closet and snuck a mini fridge up there. Only got caught when he **** up by plugging too many things in and caused power issues in the school. They had an inspector come in to find the issue, and he was like, "Why is there an extension cord going up into the ceiling?" Kid got wind of it and managed to clear everything out, had a rug, chair, lamp, and other stuff in addition to the mini fridge by the end of the day. They still caught him a few days later, but it was impressive. That one of the students in my grade was having an affair with one of the math teachers. Fast forward 10 plus years. They're married with a child. That the textiles teacher was an ex-spy. I guess we'd be dead if we knew the answer to that. I went to a school for troubled teens. The structure there was very different. Weren't allowed to smoke, even if we were 18, or even have relationships, like no dating, period. It was a boarding school, so once you were far enough in the program they would let you visit home for a couple days. A bunch of wild **** came out after one particular home visit. One kid lost his virginity, got snitched on, and then all of a sudden like 20 kids were pulled out of class and brought to the dining area. It turned out a bunch of kids had been dating, screwing, and smoking, and it all came out. They hair drug tested everyone, and in that group was the first of our school to be on out of school suspension, which created a fun new threat for everyone. It feels ridiculous typing this up now in my 30s, because so **** what? Some consenting teenagers *** each other, but at the time it was mind-blowing. Thankfully that school has closed its doors since. That the English teacher *** with ex-students. I figured out it was true after we *** when I was in college. Two girls who I did theater with and seemed especially close had an inside joke with lots of people that nobody could tell whether they were dating or just friends who liked to mess with people by acting like they were. I kinda had a hunch, but lost contact with both girls after they graduated. This was about 8 years ago. Well, just 3 days ago, I learned from a friend of a friend that they're engaged and getting married next April. My high school had a police officer stationed in it. Huge rumors were always flowing around the school of how he was known to bully/assault kids. Multiple kids tried to complain throughout my years there, but somehow the officer always got out of it. Finally, after 2 more incidents, he was let go by the school. First kid got caught smoking weed walking to school. I guess he was thrown to the ground pretty hard and the officer said he was resisting arrest. He had serious road burn and multiple bruises. Also, everyone knew this kid was not the type to resist. He was a stoner/hippie type that just smoked weed and loved everybody. Then a girl got pulled over for speeding, and he pulled her out of car very harshly, and I guess was touching, or as called it, searching places that a male officer had no business touching, especially on a 16-year student. He really only preyed on children that were alone, and I think his higher powers finally caught onto his tricks. Couple years after he was let go from the school, there was huge story on the news about a group of police officers, I think 3 or 4, who were arresting homeless people, mostly of native descent, and bringing them just outside of the city and beating the piss out of them, leaving them laying there, then driving away. Guess whose picture was first on the news article? Constable /************. Karam finally caught up with him, and he was obviously arrested. Last I heard, he was going to be doing some time. Also, I imagine and genuinely hope he is not enjoying his sentence. Crooked cops usually don't have the easiest time in prison. That our star football player had multiple girls in our school. He moved schools right after the allegations. That the teacher and principal were sleeping together. It turned out to be true, to nobody's surprise. I was homeschooled. The janitor ran a celebrity nudity site. www.regercelebs.com. Don't know if it is still there. Haven't looked since high school. Most of the football team actually did have syphilis, and they were spreading it like wildfire. I went to a Catholic school and I've never seen a stronger argument for providing free condoms to teenagers. **** of these kids were poor. They cold gone and bought their own prophylactics anytime they wanted. They just didn't bother. Hot male chemistry teacher hits on hot popular female student. Student reports it. Teacher gets fired. Nobody outside the investigation knew what actually happened until years later, but we had our suspicions, and we were right, which was more like this. Hot popular bitch in the dad's credit card clique hits on married hot teacher. Hot teacher shuts her down. Spoiled bitch reports he tried to kiss her. Gets him fired. Teacher finds another job teaching adults computer skills. Investigation finds spoiled bitch lied in retaliation because she got shot down. School asks him to come back. Teacher says nope. The stone face game. The guys were from our high school, the girls from a different one. Like 5 or 6 guys on our hockey team claimed that at a party, they got 2 girls to play the stone face game with them. The guys sit around a circular table with their pants pulled down, and the girls go around underneath sucking them off, and they have to keep a straight/blank face. Whoever wins by going the longest without making a face gets a full BJ from the 2 girls. Most people did not believe them. High school hockey players tend to be douchebags anyway, and that just sounded like something that was 100% made up. But then the 2 girls confirmed it was true and had happened exactly how the guys claimed. It was interesting because before that, the people who did believe that it had happened were having a field day calling the girls sluts, whores, skanks, no respect for themselves, etc. And while I didn't say any of those things, I'll admit my 16-year-old brain thought them too. But after they admitted to it, it was like everyone, including myself, had much more respect for them. I know for me personally, I was so impressed that they just owned it that all of the negative thoughts I'd had about it were pushed to the back of my mind. I ended up becoming friends with one of the girls when we were in college, and she was really chill about it. Said she wouldn't do it again, and it was a stupid thing to do, but luckily nothing too horrible came of it besides some people being dicks to them about it. I still have a ton of respect for her for approaching it the way that she and the other girl did. But yeah, I was pretty surprised to find out it was a true rumor lol. ***. Girl with super conservative parents got pregnant and had an abortion. She denied it and said she just get stomach surgery. Her BF at the time admitted it though. That I was gay, I had no clue at the time, but as it turns out, they were right. Not a rumor so much as a running joke. We joked that a friend of ours was our group's jughead because he never chased girls. One day I saw chasing Amy and thought, ha, jughead gay, wouldn't it be funny if that guy up my friend was gay. That the theater teacher was banging one of the cheerleaders. The next year, helping the new teacher rearrange her office, I was her teacher's assistant. We found multiple pairs of panties behind the filing cabinet. There was a rumor in my school that one of my classmates was a prostitute. Months later, some guy had a video on his phone of her sucking her **** for $50. The middle school I went to had a school resource officer that basically stayed at the school all day every day to serve and protect, or whatever police are supposed to do. There were rumors that he had been texting some of the kids that attended the school. Fast forward a year or two later, he was actually caught having sex with a couple of them. Lost his job clearly. Is now in prison. I hate it for the victims. But I love it when cops get busted. Especially for disgusting **** like that. Between junior and senior year, our janitor suddenly stopped working there. Rumors began to fly, and a friend jokingly told me that he was suspended 6 months for slapping a hooker. Turns out it wasn't true, but it says a lot that most of us believed it. Turns out, all that happened was he hooked up with a student immediately after graduation and felt too ashamed to come back. Another interesting layer to the janitor, there was one storage room with a futon in it that we are pretty sure he lived on. He had keys to the building, knew the passcode for the alarms, etc., so it made sense that he'd sleep there after everyone left. He also had a blowtorch collection in one of the closets,